in some cases 25% damage from headshots because they're immune to all sorts of multipliers. It's definitely a strange bug, but you will not have to worry about it for release. Earlier I mentioned poking things with pointy objects, and obviously melee is a big component of this game, but there are a few things that I don't like about it. I don't not like it as much as I didn't in the alpha, because I think they've changed some things. Firstly, in the alpha it was like an 80% damage per hit, which made takedowns very frequent, even if you just, took one bullet of damage. Well, someone could just press F, force an unstoppable takedown, and you'd be screwed. However, now at most you take 55 damage, which is not enough to trigger a takedown after only one bullet, meaning that for something like a 1911, you'd have to hit 2 bullets and then press F, and at that point you might as well just use the 3rd bullet. It's going to be faster anyway. I think the simple damage reduction, while it's still a 2-hit kill, went a long way to reduce the burst melee meta we had in the alpha. However, that said, the melee system has a bit of an aimbot attached to it. It's sort of a aim assist. When you press F over the course of your swing, your character will actually rotate toward the nearest target. I demonstrated this in the alpha, where you could be up to 90 degrees looking away from your target and still have it auto-rotate you so that you end up hitting him anyway. If you want that damage output in close quarters, you should actually have to aim at the target and use your melee weapon. It shouldn't be just something that you spam in the general vicinity and expect to get a kill from anyway. Currently, there's absolutely no skill involved when it comes to melee combat. That's not to say that I completely dislike it. Prior Battlefield titles have implemented poorly, and actually I think this one is the best implementation of it yet. I think the removal of the aimbot would solve almost all of my concerns with it. Something related to melee is the bayonet charge. On release there will actually be a before you can, go charging off with your gun pointing out in front of you with a pokey stick at the end. So when it comes time for the full game, it won't be quite the panic melee button that it is now. Final thing that I don't like is the existence of visual recoil. It's not quite visual recoil as we had it in Battlefield 4 and Hardline. In BF4 and Hardline, visual recoil had absolutely nothing to do with actual recoil. It was just an animation that played while your gun was firing. In a sense, it wasn't an animation, but rather your head was decoupled from the weapon, and so your head sort of played an animation relative to the gun, so it looked like the gun was swaying around a bit more than it actually did. This was fixed not by actually removing it in Battlefield 4, but by, whenever you're using an optic, just by pinning an image of the reticle on the center of your screen. So the reticle would always stay on the center of your screen, and obviously this couldn't be done for iron sights because they were a physical part of the model, which made iron sights toward the end of Battlefield 4 pretty much pointless. As I was saying, we have visual recoil in this game, but it's not anywhere near as bad as it was. For one thing, it's actually tied to the actual recoil of the gun. So whenever your gun recoils, it also does a sort of visual recoil where your head bounces relative to the gun. Again, it's perfectly proportional to the recoil, so it does make sense in some ways, unlike prior instances of this. That said, I think it makes some of the long-range PDWs, such as the MP18 Experimental, a bit harder to use at, range, what it's supposed to be good at, than it should be. That leads me up really nicely into the topic of gunplay. Some people don't like it. Obviously, some people really like it. I'm one of those. Among the Synthic infantry guys, some, Colossus, Incarnate, and Sun, who I talked to quite a bit about it, they really like it, and they're really looking forward to the Battlefield 1 full release. There are also a few who don't like it, and I'm looking at you, Jack. When I returned to Battlefield 4 after playing Battlefield 1, I found that I was not enjoying the gunplay whatsoever. I'll get into why this was a little bit later. But I did find that my aim actually had improved since I played Battlefield 1. I think this is because for the very short time I used the self-loading rifles with their 10-round magazines, I had to be very precise with where I placed my shots. It's not something that you really have to think about when you're using DMRs in Battlefield 4, since it's still a 3-bullet to kill, but you have huge magazines. You have 20-round magazines on your DMRs, whereas in Battlefield 1, if you want to use the DMRs, which are actually good, like the Che Rigotti and the Mondragon, you're stuck with a 10-round magazine, and if you're not accurate, you're going to have a bad time. I found that these habits transferred over very nicely to the Scar H, which I'm using here. Also, it's very important in Battlefield 1 to hit your first shot. The first shot is by far the most accurate among your first 3. In Battlefield 1, you could sort of miss the first shot and then correct for the second and third bullets, and you'd probably be fine. In Battlefield 1, it's absolutely imperative that you hit the first shot every time. And I found that that too helped improve my aim in Battlefield 4. You know, I mentioned that coming back to Battlefield 4, I didn't like the gunplay. I felt that I was too effective in all situations when I was using an assault rifle. It didn't seem to matter what range I engaged at. With the Scar H, I was probably going to win the engagement. I realized that I didn't have to think much at all about what my engagement ranges were, or I didn't have to choose between my engagements. You know, if I saw a guy in the distance, well, 3 taps and he's dead. If I saw a guy right up in my face, well, hip fire and he's dead, because the Scar H has amazing close quarters damage potential. So Battlefield 1 provides dedicated roles for each class, and that's really what I miss. The balance is such that it isolates each class to a given role. I mean, if you're good, you can still play outside that range if you place your shots well and you have the right loadout. For example, you choose a Mondragon if you wanted to extend your range past the usual SLR distance. If you're an assault player and you wanted to extend your range, you could use the MP18 Experimental. And with good aim, that allows for SLR-style engagement distances. The use of the Che Rigotti and the M1907 allows for close-quarter SMG-style fighting if you want to play medic but you want close quarters. The support class has options too. The Madsen works like an SMG and the Benet Mercier works like an SLR. And the bolt actions are mostly ranged, and none of them will ever work like an improvised shotgun, something that I hated in Battlefield 4 and 3. But you know, you have the Gewehr 95, and that's a close quarters rifle with no sweet spot. It starts high and it goes low, but it's never going to one-hit kill unless you get a headshot. Now that's not to say that you're limited exclusively to the ranges that your weapon says you should be. If you're a good player, you can play outside of your class ranges. Granted, the restrictions are tighter. They're much tighter than they were in prior titles. But because of this, I think we can see more class diversity. There's no more good-for-everything infantry weapon. In Battlefield 4, if you want to kill infantry, run assault. There's really no reason to do anything else. You can literally play every relevant range in the game with an AEK, a Scar H, or a SAR-21. This is not the case in Battlefield 1. While the weapons themselves have their own sweet spots, their areas of specialty, each class has a set of ranges which it is going to be most successful at. This moves the focus of skill from what it was in Battlefield 3 and 4. BF3 and 4 focused more on the technical side of things rather than the cognitive side of things. In BF1, you have to be more active in considering where your positioning is. With good positioning for your class, you can absolutely dominate. You'll still need to be good, like you still actually need to hit your shots. But a player with pretty good aim, playing his weapon at the right engagement distance, is going to be rewarded far more than a player with great aim playing at the wrong engagement distances. Now this reminded me of this painfully retarded comment I came across in one of my videos. And basically, this guy is saying that he wants all weapons to be effective at all ranges, because somehow that yields a more skillful game. Basically, he says that, you know, when I go in and play a game, I want my weapon to hit its shots on its first shot every shot. And I want to know that I won an engagement because my aim was better than the other guy. I think this is the ultimate casual mentality. It takes all sort of active thought out of the game and replaces it with a sort of baby's first point-and-click adventure simulator. You know, if you want a baby's first point-and-click adventure, you can go play the Call of Duty 4 Remaster. As far as I can tell, it has no spread, it has minimal recoil, and very few positioning options. It's the perfect game for people who lack the basic cognitive abilities to play a game like Battlefield. Now, obviously, there's going to be a balance between rewarding technical skills and forcing people to actually think about their play. I think Battlefield 1 hits the sweet spot pretty darn well. Technical abilities are certainly rewarded. Like, if you can't aim, you're not really going to play very well. But at the same time, this game certainly rewards active thought much more than any other title in the franchise has previously. You know, I'm not going to spend much time on spread, as I've talked about it extensively over the last month. So basically, the whole purpose of spread is to limit players to a certain range. There's nothing more to it and nothing less. If you're in range, you'll hit the target at an acceptable rate, and if you're not hitting the target, well, you're probably outside of your effective engagement range. Get good. Now, good players can still work with it. If you miss one shot every so often due to spread, that's not a big deal, because if you're really good, you're hitting 100% accuracy otherwise. Speaking of gunplay, bullet drop is something else that people bring up. I see people complain that there's not enough on the sniper rifles. I mean, actually, there's more of it than there was in Battlefield 4. If you want the specifics of it, I have a thread linked below that you can go have a look at your leisure. BF1 and BF4 bullet drop on the sniper rifles is comparable within 100 meters. It's either higher or lower, depending on what weapon you're looking at. The thought I want you to have is SMGs, shotguns, and SLRs don't have drop within their effective range. They never have in any Battlefield game. So why should bolt actions have it in their effective range? It's just something I want you to think about. Why is sort of a minute mechanical compensation necessary to make bolt actions better? That's just something I want you to think about. Since we're already running overtime, I'll have to cut it off there. Hope you enjoyed. And also, if you liked this style of commentary that I'm doing now, this is mostly improvised, please let me know. If you liked the old style of commentary that I did before, also let me know. And do leave a nasty comment if you felt like you hated this video.
Yeah.
We've taken objective Charlie.
Upstairs, jumping down upstairs.
What?
Charlie from the
That
front
was
door.
unbelievable distance with the UTS. What the fuck?
I remember crying about it on Metro because I was getting killed from like 50 meters.
Oh, I got bulldogged. That was just a funnel of death. I'm running away.
Oh, I got 105. I'm coming back. What the heck? I died to that here.
Oh, you almost got twice as many kills as me. Almost.
Hey guys, it's Tommy here with a group of men to discuss the Battlefield 1 Open Beta. And now, the first man you'll know very well, as he's the other angry gamer, and that's Bong, who should be sat there. There he is. The next man is, well, let him speak for himself down the list. Jack.
Alright.
There's Jack. The next man is Hads.
Borida.
And the final man, as part of the discussion, is the beautiful Stodoid.
Hello.
There he is. So we're going to discuss the Battlefield 1 Open Beta, what we like, what we don't like, what we want to change, what we don't want to change. However, because these open beta, these discussions are sometimes, you know, plod along, and we're like, yeah, we're getting through it. I've added a bit of a twist to this discussion, guys. Which, by the way, they don't know. I'm just revealing it now. There is going to be a bit of we're going to play a bit of a game, basically. It's a bit of a game. There's points involved. As the mediator of the discussion, I will be awarding the points. How do you get points, you say? Well, I'll tell you how. Every person here has to give me one really good thing they like about the BF1 beta, what they've done really well, and one really bad thing that they hate about the beta and they wish would change. Now, I'll award you points based on the quality of your discussion. You also only get 1 point each, and if someone says a point that's already been said, you can't say that point, so you've got to think of something else. So, there we go. If you disagree with another person's point, I might award you points based on your counter-argument. Does everyone understand?
Yeah.
Done.
There will also be bonus points awarded at the end of the discussion with some questions I've already set up, so don't worry about that just yet. So we're going to start off the discussion with Bong. Bong, I would like you to tell me something that you really like. We'll start positive about the BF1 beta. What have they done well?
I really like the fluidity of the movement and the combat. Actually, especially the melee.
The melee.
The charging with the bayonet has added something to Battlefield for me.
Well, that's interesting because a lot of people absolutely hate the charging.
Well, I think it's the best thing that's been added to the game. It's great.
The best thing that's been added to Battlefield.
Well, I like it because as an assault player, I can use it to charge between cover, and I'm pretty sure you get a slight resistance to being shot while you're doing it as well. I feel like I do.
I don't think you do. I think that's just your wish.
But maybe I've been willing myself from cover to cover. But yeah, I've been able to go top of the team as assault many times against literally a field of snipers, and just by using smokes and using the bayonet charge to get from cover to cover.
How does everyone else feel about the bayonet charging?
I don't really like it.
Hads doesn't like it. Wait, stop that, Stod.
Sorry.
Hads doesn't like it. What don't you like about it?
The main thing I don't like about it is sometimes I just want to run up to somebody and hatchet them in the back of the head.
Oh, so you want a different key?
Well, that's one thing. But secondly, I hate seeing people just using it to get about, not realizing it's slower.